Welcome here to Town Hall Heroes. Hello everyone and welcome to Town Hall Heroes episode number 134. My name is Solid Jake. This week we've got Dunk Train, Jay Howe, and Inverum here with me, and we have pretty much the same exact topics as last week because we've got some more meta, we've got some more balance, we've got some more HGC, and it's the good life, or there's just a steady flow of goodness here in the hero scene. On that note though, Dunkus, we just had our first pseudo pre-show in I don't know how long, all because you went to see your grandma.
Yeah, that is what happened. I'm glad I could bring something special to the viewers. Story time. Good stuff.
Yeah, if you guys missed that, I'll probably put the pre-show VOD online. I'll keep it separate. You can enjoy the shenanigans where we talk about poutine, pig's feet, and grandma's cooking. Very, very insightful, I would say. Jay Hazao is back here once again. How goes, man?
I'm working on ordering some din din right now. Obviously pretty hungry. Haven't eaten today, but okay. I'm looking at the thing. So we get meta discussion and HGC covers right up my alley. I'm excited to rant about future Sonya and Tassadar and old Tassadar that's absolutely tilting me on HGC.
Speaking of Sonya, last night, Inverum, actually, we saw some of that, but Inverum, this is your very first time on the show. So, just to give a bit of a background, I know that you've done stuff with Halo, you've been around the esports realm for, the better part of a decade, if not longer. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, thanks for the little intro. Yeah, I've been casting HOTS for a little over a year and a bit now. I've been involved in esports for over a decade at this point. Was one of the co-founders of Heroes United, which is part of the amateur scene. I'm one of the directors over at Heroes Hype. I was a director at Divergent Gaming. Basically, anything amateur Heroes of the Storm, I have my finger in that pie in some regard. Just doing a lot of casting stuff, doing a lot more casting going forward, which I'm really excited about. Just a lot of good stuff going on. And I did not have my normal setup. I'm actually at the office at my work right now because I couldn't get home in time for that because you're at 6 p.m. and I work till 6:30. So we just figured, screw it, we're doing it live here from the GamerLink offices.
I'm not going to lie. When I heard you say your fingers were in the pie, it took me back to the late 90s.
I'm glad.
American Pie is a great movie, though.
Dunk knows what I'm talking about.
Excellent.
If you say so, Jay Howe.
We can just start out the day with community banter once again, just kind of rambling about the happenings of the community. And I wanted to open this right up with, Jay Howe, you launched a series that is in immense amount of effort. I mean, talk to me about it. What did you launch?
I didn't know we were talking about that. I'm unprepared. What was the question? To talk about it?
Yeah, man. Just talk to us about this, the project and everything, about it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a recap show that for anybody, I guess, that's like either watched me on stream or heard me talk about stuff. Like I'm a big sports fan, right? I grew up only knowing two things: sports and video games. That's pretty much like what I do, and I don't know much else. But I had a lot of fun, making this, and it actually all started a year and a half ago before anybody ever knew who I was. And I was working on stuff like this, like trying to make stuff happen. And I realized like it's not a good time. Then the league got announced, and I was like, what if I revive this and things like that? And it's very like kind of sports like in terms of like the ticker and the preview and stuff like that. And I really wanted to put a lot of effort into it to, I put a lot of time into it, like, and by a lot of time, I mean like.
I can only imagine.
Beyond any normal job I think most people would probably put time into. But now to have the opportunity and the league and everything for it to kind of be the right time, like it felt appropriate. I was able to go back and edit a bunch of graphics that I'd had basically like sitting around for a long time. And it felt really good to put it out there, and the community, I guess, there was a lot of positive feedback. There's some things, I learned during editing and, that I thought I had in check, but I need to like redo some stuff. I guess once it was like actually like real and out there, I was like, I would go back and do this, but I remember the show ended, like I'd been working on graphics for days, like all day, like during HGC, I'm watching the games while simultaneously working. And, I think they finished at like 9:30. I think it was like 9:26 or something like that. I remember looking at the clock and I'm like, all right, time to work. And I got all my stuff ready. This was Sunday. And I remember talking to Dunk at like 2 a.m. Then it's like 3 a.m. Then it's like 5 a.m. And I was like, I got to get this out. Like, it's not much of a recap show if you put it out on Tuesday or Wednesday and like nobody cares. Like, we saw it all and stuff like that. So my goal is to make sure and have it out Monday morning. Stuff like I don't think it'll take me until 5 a.m, but I literally just like worked from 9:30 to 5:15 after I had been doing stuff all day. So like I put a lot of time into it, months and months and months of work and failures and a bunch of old graphics that are kind of funny to look at now. So thank you for putting that on the show. That's really cool to talk about. But it was really nice to have the reception that it did from the community. And I'm hoping that it'll only get bigger, but it was a lot of fun to officially get out there. I'll say that much.
I just want to jump in and say, like, I used to work at MLG. I worked on their production staff. So my job was to create graphics and help produce shows. And the show that I primarily worked on for my day-to-day was a show called the Esports Report, where every day we created an episode like this. That was a team of 8 of us that produced that content. But we did it daily, but it's still an immense amount of work. That's 8 full-time employees working to produce a show. The fact that you can do that solo and turn it around for 3 days of content on a Monday is insanely impressive. It's not easy. And I mean, it deserves a lot of respect and a lot of notice. So please, guys, spread the word about this series because it's very, very well done.
I'm going to bite my tongue.
I concur. Though I'll bet you're happy you've done it the first round now, because then once you have the template built, life gets so much easier going forward.
Like I said, like I think like if you actually go through some old folders, like people don't like know like the stuff I did that I failed before I ever like anybody ever even heard my name. I failed multiple times, and I'm just gonna be I busted ass for a long time, and I have been for a year and a half straight on this. I had a regular job all the way up until BlizzCon. Like my life was work and come home and work on stuff like this and obviously maintain the Diablo channel. So, that's why I said like it really meant a lot to have the positive feedback because of the amount of time and the grind that it took to get there. And so that was really cool.
So actually somebody just asked, where can I watch these recaps? And of course, it's very important for our MP3 listeners as well. That's just youtube.com/jhowgaming for the MMR show, the Monday morning recap. I love the name too. Props on that, dude.
It was a complete accident that I was just like, so if anybody watches football, there's like been a segment around for football for a long time called Monday Morning Quarterback. And I was like, I'll just like we'll come up with like a generic name for now and see how it works. And like I'd worked on it for a few days and I'm like, wait a minute, like if I abbreviate that, it's just MMR.
I need it. It's like it's heavenly. Yeah.
It might not be the best. It might not be the worst. I don't know, but I'm cool with it.
Very cool.
Sort of how when you know those things are meant to be. You're like, wait, that's it.
Complete
When it
accident.
abbreviates well, you're like, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
All right. Beyond that, just kind of some of the other bustle we have within the community, through some of the Reddit threads, people are continuing to complain about 20-minute long plus, brawls. So like, obviously some people like the shorter, just quick in, go and play brawl. And I guess the general consensus that people want at this point is like, just give us an arcade like Overwatch where we have multiple options. I think the concern there is, splitting up the queues too much, maybe.
Probably.
But yeah, that's one of the other, talking points in the community right now. I don't think there's a whole lot else though, in terms of just like new things that were released, within our community. We talked about Kendrick's show last week. That's another great show with the HGC coverage. And I think a lot of people are, just kind of going out, leveling up the content. There's a lot of another thing I just want to give credit to is the fact that we're starting to finally see like high level plays, like, the GIFs on Reddit. I really enjoy like that kind of content. That's something I've always liked in the Overwatch Reddit, and our Reddit is starting to get more like that, where you see these just, fun plays, epic plays, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot easier when there's so much more content actually happening. And Korea starting soon, too. It just means there's going to be, like, infinite high-quality stuff to make content about and to have clips on Reddit and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I love that. I go on the Overwatch subreddit all the time. And I actually used to do, for work, we did a top 5 plays of the week for Overwatch that I just put together real quick, and it was, like,
just Reddit
so
clips.
much fun. Just literally would take clips off Reddit. And just because, like, originally the whole idea was like have the community submit them and all this kind of stuff, and like it eventually fizzled out because it was just so much work for me to do, like for what we were getting out of it. But so much fun, like it. But I don't know why. I don't know why every single time someone sends you a clip, it's like, this is a sick clip. It's like, is it a Diva ult or a Reaper ult? Yeah, yeah, it is.
That's what it's like. Oh, look, there goes the mech. Boom, GG. All right. So in today's show, we're going to be talking about HGC and the meta. Now, this is kind of something we need to clarify, is that in the Pro Division, they're playing on the old patch. So they're playing on the patch pre-Valera, whereas here in the Open Division, although I'm completely out of date on the EU side of things this week for Open Division, but we did have the Arcanum last night, and we do have the live patch that we're all playing on. So there are these two different metas to discuss. I want, in our meta discussion segment, I want to talk about the live patch. When we get to HGC, we can talk a little bit about what we're seeing there and who's doing well and the meta that exists within that. But we do have the live patch, which did have a balanced patch this week, and we can just hop in and talk about that. So give me a moment to load that up. Let's open the discussion with a hot topic, and just coming in hard at you guys, Sonya, because she is relevant again. Like just suddenly, immediately, Sonya is a threat, and it's after some nice tweaks, which I will be pulling up momentarily. But
yeah, basically Sonya got huge buffs to whirlwind healing, especially, so she has a lot of sustain and survivability if the enemy team is short on interrupts. So she basically feels a little more balanced right now in terms of role among the bruisers. Like they have varying levels of interactivity at range, where Thrall is like the high point where he can poke and CC and do a lot of stuff from range, and then you have Sonya, who has like literally no range interaction and a really weak gap closer, and she needs to be in melee range to heal up, and now it actually feels like you're at least rewarded if you manage to stay in melee range and don't get bursted down. So I do like the effect that it's had on her.
I think Dunk's point when he first started up was about like not going against CC comps. Like there was actually like the strategies that were being developed. Like we started seeing people like first ban ETC because, and then the other thing was like people were afraid to draft Kerrigan on Infernal Shrines because Diablo was on the other team. And you have like these heavy CC things, like, and I don't want to say Diablo so much on Sonya. I think it's still a threat though. But with the CC heroes, basically the warriors on that front line, like you get interrupted at all as Sonya, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like I'm in trouble. And so that's why, like, I think that she'll definitely be in the meta, but I don't think it's like every single comp.
And yeah, but that's a great place to be in. And I think the point that I wanted to drive home here was the fact that even just last night alone, after this patch was so fresh, Inverm and I saw a wide array of uses when it came to the bruisers that exist in the meta. I think I don't know if the warrior pool has ever been this healthy, from Varian seeing play, Sonya seeing play, Zarya seeing play, Diablo, ETC, Muradin, Johanna, like they're all Dahaka, like they're all very, very much viable and in different scenarios. And it's fun when you look at a map like Shrines, because you look at Shrines, like, okay, Sonya's good, oh, Diablo's good, Dahaka's good. Oh, who's bad? Like no one is. But like there's so many different instances and styles where Sonya might be that correct option. And we saw Sonya Medivh. I've always thought Sonya Medivh is amazing, and we saw that to really good success last night too.
Yeah, I really want to see. So we've kind of run into this meta, like maps like Braxis. You got to have that strong solo laner, and Tahaka basically steps in. He does that a lot. I want to see who can like 1v1 now. Like Sonya was up there, but then like you had to have heroes like Leoric or Chen or Rexar and stuff like that on Braxis. Like yeah, or Thrall, I guess, is your other option. But you got to have some type of self-sustain, and like she does that now. And I really wonder, like, if the solo lane part alone, and as you talked about, her lack of mobility, can that be basically like supplemented by Medivh portals just to get in and out? But again, her lack of a gap closer, would she be too broken if you add like Mystical Spear
As default.
baseline?
Yeah, I was thinking that. That was exactly, yeah.
So that's her only crutch is, like you said, her engage.
See, I almost wonder if you could do it like as an activatable on like 1 or something, on like a 30-second cooldown. It was like a different spear that you could use as like mobility, maybe a little bit longer. Use it to like pull you through stuff as well. Like rather than having it baseline, that's something that I heard thrown around that I actually really liked, because then it's a cooldown that you have to manage, and it's almost like helping hand kind of function in that regard. So I think that could be really cool.
It's an interesting idea.
I don't know if it would make her broken to have that baseline, as long as you didn't include the CDR that comes with the talent, because it also gives CDR. I feel like if you included both baseline, it might be a little too much.
I think I might prefer the idea of like, no, I was going to say wrap it into another spear talent, but then it becomes a guaranteed talent. Like that promotes like never selecting a different talent, whatever tier you put that at. Even if you put it at 7, I think you would take that over follow through in a lot of cases. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Because that would be a huge buff for her, like a huge buff.
Does she need that though?
I think now, like, there's reason, as you know, Sonya peers over my shoulder. I just saw the delayed one. Is it right? Like, I don't know how many maps we'd see her on. Like, does she become viable on a handful of maps, or is she like viable all around now?
I mean,
I can see her on Braxis.
I think she's more or less viable anywhere, because she's gonna be very strong in lane. She is a little bit, vulnerable when it comes to a rotate, just because a blow up comp does delete her very very handily, and she does not have that power slide, dwarf toss, escape, whatever. But I don't like, what's a bad lane matchup for her with her whirlwind? Not a single game where Dahaka could challenge her. She was just annihilating Dahaka last night. And it's not like a matchup that I personally have a lot of experience with, but based on the games we saw within our top 8, which are all, relatively good teams in the scene. They're not our pro teams, they're amateur teams, but still it was a high enough level of play to merit Sonya's strength. She was bodying Dahaka's.
She doesn't have a global though, so she should win the lane.
True. I mean, I agree with that. I agree with that balance wise, but I mean, that's still like, you think about early game, and she is a really, really good asset.
I was under the impression that I don't know, we're not there yet, but I was under the impression the HGC like Pro League still had one more week on the old patch. But I read an article today or last night, whatever day it was, that said that this week they were changing, unless I misread that. It was like on there.
So this week I think is the intermediary patch where, like, wasn't there Zul'jin release, and then there was a patch, and then there was Valera patch, right? And like they're going to intermediary patch this week in HTC, if I'm not mistaken, and then the week after this week is Valera patch. So Tassadar and Valera don't come in this weekend. I don't even know if Valera's available on the first weekend her patch is on, but it's not this weekend.
Garbage. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
Hey, we saw her played yesterday, and it was good until it wasn't.
It was a blow up comp. I mean, and it's a cool idea.
With Toronto, it dummied people.
I'm not saying she's a bad hero. Before we went on, I went and played Valera just for fun. Like, I just played a quick match queued up with Valera, but like in competitive, she will not be good.
I think she'll have her places. I think there's scenarios where you might see her on a map like Dragon or a Tomb, just because if you can get a pick comp like with the roam and you can just constantly like basically have a monster threat, I think there's merit to her. But she's not going to be a common, she's going to be like a last pick kind of hero that will exist in my opinion.
I think
it'll be a very niche situation though.
But that's fine. I mean, that's great. I love those kind of heroes. It's hype when they get picked.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with Valera is the fact that you go in. She's a dominant melee assassin who's also like the most crutching on having teammates who aren't bad. Just for like general play, because you go in, you blow your load, and then if my teammates don't save me and the hero's not dead, I don't live at all. And like Zeratul got mobility, Thrall, he's got mobility. Like Illidan, all the other melee assassins that sort of fit in this role have some ability to save themselves. Valera's just like, I'm maybe invisible now. Good luck. And even then,
Smoke bomb.
Well, yeah, sure.
Just throw some AoE down on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can try that.
Her saving grace is the fact, and I don't know what, like, if she's in competitive, I don't know what it's going to be, but I almost feel like the Vanish cooldown reduction at 20 feels necessary in order to, like, survive.
Oh, I agree with that. It gives her she needs energy talents to be able to have any kind of sustain in her fight. Otherwise, she's like a walk-in burst and then run away and be irrelevant for 10 seconds. And then the Vanish cooldown, what brings it down to 5 seconds from 8, I think, is like almost a necessity as well, just because like she's But then you're talking about that's a 5-second stun that she has. So like if she had that baseline, that would be insane.
I do know one thing is that cloning a Valera and getting 2 Valeras, because like you don't need talents to burst somebody.
That's true. Well,
like cloning Valera and like the 2 of you going in on a target, it's so funny to play like in quick match.
No one lives through that.
No, they don't.
It's awesome.
It's funny. Jay, one thing you mentioned was the Valera patch creeping into the tournament realm, and in the article that was posted yesterday, they kind of say it. I'm curious. The wording is, however, things will soon change as the Valera patch creeps its way into the tournament realm. Both Rexar and Tacit are having. So this is like a Dreadnought quote, but they're not officially acknowledging that that's happening this week. So I am not
There's something else I read. I don't know what it was. Hold on, I'll find it.
Okay.
Like I saw.
What would be really good if they listed what patch was on, like on the schedule. If they listed the patch,
that's a really good suggestion.
Because on the website you can't see what patch like week 1 or 2 was played on, or like what patch 3 or 4 are going to be played on, that sort of stuff. And that stuff's already decided. Like, yeah, you won't have it for the end of the season already, but like you definitely should write somewhere what patch each week is getting played
like,
on.
If it just said like, somewhere in this, like, patch 4.8.6 or, whatever the heck it is, that would be just really good, especially when it comes to, cataloging the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the esports page and they put up a new article. We'll get to it shortly, but K1 Pro quoted, "I'm still the best range player in North America." 1, that's a baller headline. I'm already clicking on it to read it later. But 2, I actually agree with that.
Damn, those be fighting words, Jay. How?
Dude, we studied the hell out of these guys last year, and K1 on like a couple heroes like was blowing people away. Like
he's still the only Jaina in NA, in my opinion.
Huh?
I still think he's like the only Jaina. I love watching his Jaina. I always have. He doesn't play it much anymore, but
what about Zona?
Zona Lakith?
Dude, he put that team his team made plays. Oh god, we'll get into it later. Anyway,
yeah, that's a later topic. Okay, well, we can actually go through some of the other patch notes for this week here, as we do have quite a few. We're not going to go through everything. Uther has armor. This makes Uther significantly more tanky. It's a suggestion that you made, Jay Howe, I think. You said give him 10 armor if he picks Divine Storm a few weeks ago.
like I made a comment about like different heroics would give you like either spell armor or physical armor, but it was like an aura though.
Oh yeah, we had the aura chat.
I like where they're going with it, and they did say that they're doing more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they said that was just like the first of the tweaks they intended.
But like we actually saw a Divine Storm Uther and like in like a heavy tank composition, which was really interesting. It didn't end up getting the win, but you know, it felt like a paladin. You know, it really felt like a paladin, and not just like a heal bot with a bubble.
It felt good. It felt good to see Uther as like a pseudo bruiser, especially with all the CC his kid had. You know, like you pop Benny and you're like going in, drop the double stun, drop the Divine Storm. I mean, it feels good. Like I love Uther. Uther was, you know, I played so much Uther when he was like the #1 for all time, and it's good. I think he definitely will start to see a comeback. I think his problem is the prioritization of just these like the global on Brightwing and Malf. Like Malf has a very clear role. And like Rhaegar has something that he does very clearly well, and Ariel has so many heroes that she naturally like. Uther just needs to find his spot where it's like, oh yeah, you pick Uther here. You know what I mean? So I feel like as we learn how to sort of replay him again, because we haven't touched him in like 3 months, I hope he finds that spot again as sort of that off, almost like that bruiser role. I really feel like he could have a home there.
I like that idea a lot.
2 things on that. Okay, so the first is probably more serious than the second. Like okay, so like BlizzCon winners and Global Championship winners, they get their own mount. Should we have gotten a Dunk Train skin for Uther?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
That's not a question. That's an
Okay,
obvious.
but the second part was that during the Q&A they did like 2 months ago, they did say that they think that Uther had a place, and it was with like a double bruiser roll. Dunk shakes his
I
head.
don't think so. I don't think this change. I don't think this change is enough to bring him into
Not
competitive.
this.
I don't think so either. But I think if you introduce like Palioras and all that kind of stuff, the idea that like again, I love that idea. The idea that he can pick. That's, you know, Karazim's got his at level 1 or whatever. I would love the idea that Uther had one at level 1, increased damage output, increased armor, healing, whatever.
Movement
Like
speed,
the
yeah.
whole yeah, or something like that. If you're hugging, like you hug the Brightwing, it's hug the Uther. And you go in and like in a double like frontline warrior composition, you actually just be that third charging frontline and you go in real deep. I love that idea of Battle Uther, really being Battle Uther.
To be able to influence a fight in a way other than just healing, right? Like to be able to say, you know, you pop that buff on your team in an impactful way that gives them whatever it is. Movement speed. There's a number. They could do all different kinds of auras, like Might, Kings, could be whatever they want. I think that could be super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like auras categorically, but if you did something like Varian Banner, where it's like a really shorter duration, like the enemy can interact with it, then it becomes cool. And I wonder if there's like potential synergy there, because Uther's biggest problem when looking at him in like the Bruiser light is definitely lack of mobility, inability to get Divine Storm onto important targets. So you can only ever pick it against things like an Illidan, who's going to get out of position and then you can chain stun and kill them, or like there's not really any other ways to get Uther onto like their squishies. So maybe you could play it with movement speed Varian Banner to get Uther to connect. That might work out. But overall, he's just like so much less healing output than the other healers right now. Like Malf's healing output is unbelievable.
It's stupid.
Just in terms of raw HPS. So like you can't risk picking an Uther if they have any chance of being able to just poke you, because like you'll lose the poke so hard.
His cooldowns are pretty crippling.
12 seconds.
Crushing cooldowns, yeah. It's like, well, I healed this guy, now this guy got hit by a Li Ming combo. Sorry, bud. You're just SOL.
Well met.
The light abandons you right now, because I have nothing.
Well, I'm interested to see what they do with Uther moving forward. Ragnaros got some nerfs. They ended up what? They made Sundering better. They reduced the cooldown, I think, and yeah, and then they nerfed Earthquake. Hold on, So I think that's a sizable nerf to Thrall, but Earthquake is still going to be pretty good. It won't be as crippling, but honestly, like I think this is just a good change for Thrall, because the whole like press R and have insane amounts of control for an extended period of time felt a little bit much.
Yeah. I wonder at what point people will stop picking Earthquake. Just like curious, like is this going to be the nerf that makes people stop picking Earthquake, or like does it have to go one further? Because it's always interesting to me to see like the breakpoints where people start to pick something up that was getting buffed, or like to stop playing something that was getting nerfed. Just because like perception is such a huge part of whether people pick something, like it's interesting. Because you could argue. Good.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say you could argue that like Earthquake after this nerf is like probably about even with where it was when it was never getting played. Like if you compare the heal versus the cooldown and the increased slow, like that's probably a relatively even trade-off at this point. So like it's interesting to see if he still gets Earthquake played. Then like, okay,
Sundering has like it's a high ceiling type thing.
Mhm.
Like if you land it, like it's a game changer.
Oh yeah.
Earthquake, not necessarily the case.
So like I think back on Sundering, and some of the moments when Sundering was the most prominent was also reliant on having the hero to follow up, and a lot of those heroes are still very good, like Johanna, to be able to get that blessed shield to set up the Sundering or follow up the Sundering when you seclude the team, or even Sunderings that part the team, then you get the power slide mosh pit. There's a lot of those big plays that could happen, but does Sundering have anti-synergy with things like Apocalypse, or is that something that could be timed up well? Like I've never tried. I don't know if I've ever even seen that.
It used to be a thing.
it used to get played a little bit, but like it's so hard. The timing window is narrow, especially after the reduced stun duration. Like
I think
it doesn't
Masood
really
is
work.
here.
Like because Sunder used to be like what 1.5, I think, when at its highest, maybe 1.25.
The stun duration was 1.5.
Yeah, yeah. So now it's 1. So like APOC takes 1.75 to trigger, so it's not really feasible.
Yeah, that's tough.
To do it, because you have to basically press the APOC after they've gotten hit by the Sunder, so they don't get pushed out by the Sunder itself. And like 3/4 of a second is too long for them to get out of APOC if there's not like a follow-up CC.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's why again, just like Earthquake, APOC was just so good.
Yeah.
'cause you just
That's
can't
amazing. Right.
move. Like you're done. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's one. Again, that's an interesting question but I think the difference is now we have experience playing with Earthquake. No one touched Earthquake for years. I don't think I'm exaggerating with that one. Like, literally years. No one touched Earthquake, but now everyone's gotten used to playing with it again. So I feel like they'll be more likely to give it another shot, even though on paper Sunder might be the actual choice. It's sort of like we were so gun shy to take Earthquake, and now it's sort of like, okay, we have experience with both. We know the values of both, and then I think it becomes more situational. Just sort of like what you need Thrall to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully we'll see some more diversity. We did see Sundering one game last night on Arcanum, and we'll have to see how the pro scene approaches that once it does in fact trickle in with this patch for those games. Going down to Zul'jin, Guillotine is down to a 30-second cooldown, which is insanely short, especially for something like that. However, Guillotine is an ability that doesn't do that much damage unless you have damage on yourself. So it's it's situational. It's hard to find that kill. So sure, if Zul'jin's at 5% HP, it's gonna like just one shot a large number of assassins in the game. But the likelihood of him being able to do that frequently is slim. However, very long cast range, very short cooldown. So I like the idea of Guillotine, and I like the idea of us seeing Zul'jin going murking, taking a ton of damage in the process, and throwing a raw guillotine from the fog of war, just over and trying to get kills, just having that kind of threat and maybe making plays. And it seems like a risky thing to do, but like the idea that could be a thing with Zul'jin, with it being such a risk-free cooldown to get free kills, is it's cool to me, because it's not an easy thing to land. It's got wind up. It's you never know where they're going to be standing.
Yeah. Oh man, Guillotine I'm so conflicted about. Like, I feel like the whole caster style spec W Zul'jin is like, it's just not gonna work, man. And Guillotine is cute, but you just can't give up Tazdingo.
Oh, for team fights, that's the problem, right? Like, he needs Tazdingo.
It's called Force of Will. And it's provided by your good buddy Medivh. And then you're muted.
Divine Palm.
Divine Palm, yeah, but except you can't cast Guillotine when you're Divine Palmed. That's the only downside. So that's how you basically die, and then Medivh clutches and saves your life, and then you kill everything.
Palm for Tazdingo, great. Guillotine, yeah, not so much.
Yeah,
Jay, what'd you order?
A burger, and like it's like a local restaurant. They have like they advertise like mac and cheese bites. I didn't realize it was so. It's mac and cheese,
right?
Yeah, it's crusted.
Yeah, they're delicious.
I never had this before.
They're so good. Enjoy. I'm jealous. For the MP3 listeners, he held up his fork and knife as he's ready to devour his victim.
The holding up a fork and knife when about to eat a burger is, I think, sacrilege, no matter where you are.
Yeah,
oh no, I just did it for the memes.
Yeah, for the memes.
Oh, okay. In that case, it's fine.
Good.
Meme on good, sir.
Also, how are you hearing us? This has been bugging me all night. Are you using speakers?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah,
but not picking up on the mic. Oh.
No,
nice.
they're wireless speakers in my ears.
Yeah. I'm just really confused. The J-House telepathic.
I'm from the future.
Yeah, it's got them built in.
No, I'm just using regular speakers.
I hope your cat climbs on your desk. Sorry.
How long do you think before that happens? You get like implanted, like
they have ear pods.
I mean, that's close.
You guys have ever read the book Otherland? They do that. You've got like stuff like everyone's got a wireless jack in their head. Yeah.
My wife loves that series. I have not read it. Ted Williams, right?
Yeah, it's intense. I read it as like a child of 9, and that was a mistake.
It's pretty good.
Would not recommend at 9 years old. Good though.
Well, Zul'jin, I've seen him played in a few competitive matches, and like, again, more on the amateur side, and I'm always just kind of like, why Zul'jin over even like Raynor? I love playing Zul'jin. I've played a ton of him, but he just doesn't feel like he has the same kind of stability. I don't know if they need to make a change to his E, because I really feel like it's a waste of an ability. 100% of the time I'd rather have Raynor just because his E is more reliable. You can use it in combat, right? It has that additional sustain. Raynor also has a little bit of space control with his Q, and that's something Zul'jin doesn't. I mean, he has the W, which is it's fine, but I don't know. He just feels like meh.
Yeah.
There's just people who do his job better.
Pretty much.
It was, I think it was Sunday. Somebody picked Zul'jin over Avala. Like Vala was still available, and they went with Zul'jin. I was actually quite surprised at that. Much to the same reason you were talking about.
Right.
Did they win?
I don't remember. I know it was Brax's. I don't remember though.
Oh, that was an A.
Yeah, that was 100% an A.
Yeah. I actually watched that too, and that actually, for some reason, I thought that was amateur. That's the game I was thinking of. So I think he lost, but I could be wrong. I'll find out what match that was in a moment. Okay, Dunk's on it.
It was Gale Force versus B-Step, and Zul'jin won.
Oh wow!
Played by Gale Force.
I still have to catch up.
They also had Rag on their team, so I'm not sure you can say anything about it.
It's interesting. I mean, I guess like Zul'jin has decent clear. Like his AOE is actually pretty okay. That was definitely a Tazdingo game though. It wasn't Guillotine, but
yeah, I'm still catching up on all the VODs from this weekend because I was out of town. So it's been like a whole process trying to catch up on 2 regions worth of VODs.
Yeah, like 24 hours of content.
Casting.
Only
casting Monday and Tuesday. So
only there was a show that covered those.
Yeah, I know. I did watch, but you didn't cover everything.
I covered a lot though.
It did, which is why I know anything at all.
Dunk even had a segment on the show. You guys better check that show out.
Yeah, you should. I was like, ooh, production. I swear you used some of those transitions for old like casting back in the day. I swear I recognized some of them. Yeah.
There was one transition that I used a long time ago. Slightly modified since then.
Yeah. See? Got a memory for this
Recycle,
stuff.
reuse, man. It's the way to do it. The show we're talking about, of course, is Jayhow's new series called MMR, the Monday Morning Recap. You can find it on youtube.com/JayhowGaming. But let's move on to Zagara, my bae. She's been in a bad spot. She's been forgotten. She used to be the queen of the solo lane. But nowadays, she really doesn't see a lot of play. They've given her a small buff, creep tumor, a little bit more impactful than movement speed up to 20%, less cooldown by 2 seconds. And the Hydralisk is getting a little bit of love, going to do a little bit more damage overall. The Hydras do feel good. I think they feel like they actually like force a retreat. But I think even with just the globe change that happened however many months back, there's enough like sustain in lane overall to be able to retreat and play safe and tap the globe for the solo lane hero she'd be facing to prevent her from that being an issue. I don't know. What do you guys think about Zagara? You think she's got a chance to be relevant, or her team fight still just kind of...
There's a chance, but I don't know.
I think she kind of falls into this hyper-aggressive double warrior frontline, and she has movement speed obviously on her creep, but like she doesn't necessarily like have any like, I'm just going to walk away from this or use like an ability to walk away. I think because it was her W that made her so OP in lanes. And then they're like, nope, we nerfed it. Not only did they nerf the damage, but they nerfed its scaling, which made it even weaker.
And they brought that back a little
bit. They brought it back, but...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I need somebody, like, I remember there were several teams that would prioritize it on something like Tome. Like, is that going to be a thing again is the question. Because, like, she can solo a lane maybe now?
Well, she gives vision, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. You
Right,
only had to
yeah.
goaltend one while she kept vision on the other.
If anyone's going to pull it out, it's going to be Cawthon. So,
I mean, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, if anyone's going to pull it out, it's going to be Cawthon, and we'll see what they do with it there. I think the issue right now is that there was such a huge prioritization on global heroes that people were picking her for Nidus, but then she was offering nothing to the team fight to speak of. And it's like, well, cool, you can split push, but eventually the team is just able to actually fight you, you lose. So
I mean,
Maw obviously
battle
is still-
momentum is actually impactful. She's
Yes.
spamming more things out, so she gets battle momentum with Nidus. So, like, it's yes and no. She can spam significantly more. If she's able to consistently auto, I'd say that Nidus does, in fact, have a good implication, especially on maps where you're trying to stall. She becomes, phenomenal on, say, Cursed Hollow. And, the tributes that are right next to the lane where she can, get those autos on minions. She can just spam roaches, like, for free, spam banelings post-10, so...
There was a time, like, Cawthon made great use out of it, but there's a very simple solution. Like, you get to that 12 to 15 minute mark, and you're on Cursed or Sky Temple or whatever map it is you want to try and push, and you hit a wall. It's called that you can push so far, and then the minute somebody steps into your lane, you're like, oh, I got to back out or I got to disappear. They clear your creep and your Nidus, and you're like, well, I'm going to have to, like, spend time to walk all the way over there again, put creep down, try and get it down. And if you made... There were several games that nobody made a concerted effort to just clear it. Like, if you do that, you take so much pressure off of the lanes and your team. And she hits a wall late game. And a lot of teams weren't doing that, and Cawthon got away with it, but you saw it used in Europe around that time, and people were like, nope, it's not happening. And, like, nobody could pull it up. But for whatever reason, teams just... It escaped their mind, and... It was very frustrating for me to watch. Like, it's awesome. Here's the thing. I have like a level 14 Zagara that I play all the time on stream. Like, it's like a mini game. I love Nidus. But I don't know if it... I think it's easily countered.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't feel like a dominant global hero in that regard, right?
Yeah.
No.
I think the advent of Dahaka probably will keep her down, even in the situation where, like, even if she's good, based on these numbers, like, you have to probably ban out Dahaka, I would assume, because he's so dangerous being able to global behind you and probably kill you, versus also able to handle your split pushing. Like, there's probably not room for Zagara against a Dahaka.
Yeah,
but maybe you could play both together. Zerg power, boys.
I almost wonder if there's
like you're
a
Zagara, and you're like, I need help, and Dahaka's like, I got you.
Yeah. Because, like, you'll kill someone during the duration of Dahaka's, like, tongue and the Vuln he has now. Like, Zag can definitely DPS someone down in that time frame, so... It could actually be powerful.
I read a really cool thing a long time ago about a concept that was thrown around about you taking away... It was actually, I think it was right after Dahaka came out, so I guess it wasn't that long. Taking away Zagara's mount and having like a weaker Nidus be like her Zed, or like her mount almost.
Zed.
And then having her, like, giving like other alt options, which I thought was interesting. Of almost having that like be her, like, her global, is like having the mount was theory crafting right after Taka, to Dunk's point. I thought that was interesting. I'm thinking that maybe that's too much of a big change for such an old hero, but
Yeah, I don't know.
We also already have a lot of heroes that have globals on their Z. I think it's interesting to have a couple with it on their heroic choice, like ETC Zagara.
I mean, I think Nidus is in a good position, right? I mean, maybe the answer to make Nidus better is like you have the option to cast it where you instantly summon it and jump into it. So she has like a retreat where she can just suddenly just like escape down the rabbit hole. Maybe that would be enough. But then at the same time, that would have to be like an extra ability, almost like an extra cooldown. She can't, like, maybe that's 120-second cooldown for her, where she has this guarantee, just like, whoop, I'm out of here, to try to split push, because you don't want to enable like that kind of freedom to just split push as hard as you want. You want to put a cost on that, but it would still at least give her an option, which would be cool. Because currently, if you stun a Zagar, she dies. Like, that's it. She's done. She has no chance. She can't. Even Ragnaros has an option to go underground. Like, and he has movement speed too, right? Just to throw one comparison in there. Jay Howe is munching, and he is loving every bit of it.
Been awake 10 hours. I'm finally eating.
That's good, man. I encouraged it. I said, order your food, dude. You got to eat. All right, let's transition to Artanis, who I think Blizzard they took the hero. They finally made it so that you can Q and E the Dream, a high skill option for him, or a higher skill compared to what we had before. So now you can have these ridiculous swaps that are incredibly impactful. They have found that as people have gotten better with it, well, the hero is pretty damn good and is winning a lot of games. So they've kind of started to tune him down. It's a really nice number tweak, just kind of tweaking his numbers down a little bit, trying to see where that puts him. Still feels like a god to me, though.
Yeah, he's still really good.
yeah, I think he'll continue to be really good until people learn how to play against him.
You think that's the issue? You think it's a matter of just not being able to be ready and be prepared for the swaps and stuff, or?
I think at the very high, it's weird because I'm sort of in two minds about this, because at the very highest level you've got god tier Artanis players, but you also have people who can predict, and I could mention it last night, but you also have people who can juke really, really well. So there's about like predicting the jukes is about a 50%. Like my math was you had a 50% chance of hitting any Artanis Prism, any Artanis swap. You got a 50% chance of hitting it, because if you can guess which way they're going to juke off the straight line. So I think that once players just sort of, like, everyone can get to that point, 50% of the time, I don't think that's unreasonable.
So if I'm ever playing against your Artanis, I'm just going to keep running straight, and you'll never hit me.
That's it. I'll never do it.
Let's talk about this. Okay, so here's the thing. Stitches, especially if it's against like somebody that doesn't have great mobility, but you have a slow that you pick up at 7 on Artanis. That's already a plus. You land one swap, the same way that if you land one hook, it can like change a game. And it's a lot easier to land a swap than it is to land a hook. Like, and I think the swap is 14 seconds or 15 seconds, and then you get a cooldown on it at 13, which is crazy. Stitches has a 16 seconds on his hook, which is a lot harder to land.
And he has to spend a talent to increase the range to even make it comparable. So
it's so 16 seconds in a team fight. Very rarely will you have, like, if it's a full engagement, you won't have a second opportunity. It's if you poke with it, sure, you're going to have like basically 2 chances, but in that 30 seconds, something's going to happen. But we're talking about a really short cooldown on something that is just as impactful as a hook, has an added slow on it, which makes it OP, and you land one. And we saw teams like, I saw a team pushing on Tomb of the Spider Queen. It's like you land one, all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's wide open. Like, it's a game changer. And there's definitely something, like, I play Artanis all the time. Like, I honestly think that 13 talent, because they nerfed it, right? Cooldown reduction decreased from 6 to 5 seconds. I almost think that needs to go away. As much as I hate to say it, because like you need it almost as like an escape and melee range at times, but it's so impactful that short of a cooldown for something that's easier to land and for it to be able to change games, I love it, man. But it's super strong. Like, it's super strong.
You're talking about Graviton Vertex? You think that's?
Yeah, the 13. Yeah.
I find it really curious, like how good how strong he feels in Hero League, combined with how much play he's getting in NA. But then like he's getting ignored in Europe, and like doesn't have a very good win rate. Like, it's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder why Europe decided that Artanis is like not that impactful, because it's curious. And I think right now, like, Europe looks like it's probably the stronger region. So if they're ignoring Artanis, there probably is a reason for that. I'm just curious what it is.
Chat's making good arguments about, like you can use it to like save your allies and stuff like that. But
Hook.
yeah,
I mean,
which
those are,
is fine.
The thing is
But
like
the reward you get out of the opportunities to swap people, you have 2 opportunities basically by the time Stitches has 1.
yeah.
And it's easier to land, and you land it, and it's really good. Yes, there's obviously utility differences between Stitches, but
Also, you don't lose the game if you don't land a swap. You lose the game if you don't land a hook. But if you don't land a swap, you don't lose the team fight. Like, I think that's a big deal too.
So once upon a time, Pulverize actually was a stun and not a 75% slow.
I remember.
And actually, like this is like kind of a weird idea, but we have more and more of these, like, at the center of the arc, or at the center of the arcane flare, there's like added damage. I think I might like this if maybe it slammed in the center like quarter of it, so it's like a small hitbox where you can slam linearly, and then the rest of this for an actual stun, and the rest of the slam just does the slow or something. I actually think that's one of the issues, more so than the hook for Stitches. Just Stitches needs to be able to interrupt, and the only way you can interrupt right now is Gorge, but then you're committed to that heroic, which is not as I honestly think you just kind of need, in so many matchups, you just need the sludge, you need the bile. So at a level 16 talent, it's reasonable to be able to spend into a stun, and if it was just like the center area, kind of like Li Ming's blind, right? It has to be in the center of her whip. If that was a stun, could be quite nice. Just a thought.
Yeah, I miss
Stitches.
Oh wait, I
miss
had my mic muted. Li Ming has a whip and a blind.
Yeah.
Ariel.
But okay.
Uh,
Jay, how
you said Li Ming.
did I say Li Ming?
Yeah, I was
you
just
did.
joking. You said Li
Oh,
Ming.
Ariel.
Yeah, you said Li Ming's blind. I'm
Like,
like, man, I
completely-
don't remember massive Johan ever blinding, though it was OP as hell. Like, what meta would we fall in? Jake, I don't recall.
Whoops. Well, they're both Grails, and they're both from Diablo, so I got that much right.
That's true.
Speaking of Diablo, Lightning Breath of Rooney, it's meta now. Confirmed. It's the way to play. Go home, play Lightning Breath Diablo, call it a day.
Not sure that's true. I mean, it definitely is more consistent now, but it wasn't actually a damage buff.
Yeah.
Just
It's just quality of life.
Damage
Yeah.
buff. Somebody's running circles around you, and that's about it.
yep.
From the shadows.
Actually, it's not buff. It's normalized at that point.
That's true. From the shadows, this is probably a stunt, a nerf overall. I'd
Oh
say.
yeah.
Yeah.
The stun time was absurd, but
Yeah.
I don't think that 7% range is very impactful.
I mean, it's
Well,
nice.
He already could basically Q you from fog, so what does it really matter? It's basically a global anyway.
Just charges you from across the map. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's basically the hunt, just on its Q. It's good.
hmm
Um,
but in all seriousness, this tone down definitely was needed, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Diablo's wasn't a good spot, but yeah, I think
He's
he
still
just
in a
needs
good
some numbers
spot.
tweaks.
yeah.
Yeah, he's still in a good spot. I just think these numbers tweaks put him at balance. I think I liked the small changes to his kit, just giving that additional bit of CC and stuff. I think was really good because he just really becomes that big initiator. But again, we mentioned it last night during the cast about like how much we love him paired with Zarya, because once he goes in, until you get the double overpower, you ain't getting out. You're committing to that. So charge whatever.
Somebody said I had a big nose.
Wrecked.
Dang.
I mean, I have a
Sad.
big nose, so
Same.
I'll say.
Last but not least, I think to talk about tonight is Zarya. I mean, we saw some games where Zarya just shows how insane she can be late game with her. Like, it was cattle, just ba-doom, 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 just shooting them out constantly, and they've toned the damage down on that a little bit. But I just think her ability to maintain energy at the high level, her ability to put out DPS, her ability to constantly have an interrupt, her ability to save people, sustain, and be rewarded for it is insane. Like there's like nothing. She has both of her ults are good. Zarya just feels like insane right now to me. There's like as like a poke warrior, like she has the dream kit. And she's not like the ultimate playmaker. She's not the ultimate, like, just going to go in and win a fight. She just feels like such an amazing foundation in the shield meta that we're seeing. So
For like the build up to HGC, like, I was talking to like the pro players and stuff. Everybody just continued to say like how strong Zarya was and how broken she was. And now that like Europe, like Team Expert, ADRD's team, like they played a lot. But I think it definitely fits in. I want to see like with Tassadar and stuff, but I think I brought this up maybe during our cast or something. Like I can't remember what I was talking about, but like you get Valo, the other team generally, especially in North America, is going to go something like Li Ming, and you just like, all right, well if we have Zarya, thanks for the energy, good luck winning a game. Like it's so. Like good Zarya players will sit there and they'll be like, please pick Li Ming, right? Because you can just sit there and feast on energy by reducing all damage taken from that, and you take away burst, and you give yourself a huge boost in damage. And like you see that in North America is like they'll want you to take that. You'll see rotations in the draft that want you to go that route. And I think that the lack of like range damage dealers is kind of a troubling issue right now. I say that with the caveat that I don't mean that they're not good or they can't put out damage. Blizzard, Flame Strike, Jaina, and Kel'Thas are like your backup damage dealers outside of Gul'dan. But if you're looking for burst damage, like it's predictable damage, you can feed off of that. The only like good range damage dealer that you get like that sustained damage is something like a Vala and maybe Zul'jin. But like in terms of like mage damage, it's all predictable. But the top two in North America right now are Vala and Li Ming. And then everybody else is kind of like Gul'dan is there on certain maps. But it's a really awkward balance with Zarya in the current meta, I find.
I think the other interesting thing is just Tychus. Like, you didn't mention him there. His win rate is not good in North America. But he still sees like a fair bit of play. I mean, we saw a ton of Tychus in the amateur scene, and we still do. So he's in a really interesting state, I feel.
Yeah. I feel like we discuss Tychus every week. Like, yeah. He loses all his games, and we don't know why.
I mean, what's his involvement rate right now?
Oh, it's like 70%. Something stupid.
Yeah, it's really high. In North America, he's at an 87% popularity. 87%. And his win rate is up to 43% NA. That's a huge improvement from week one.
Better than 10%.
Yeah. So that's interesting. He's up to 13 wins, 17 losses in NA.
Nazeebo was really good.
Delicious.
In that game, he got picked where the enemy team had no auto attack damage, so he was literally invulnerable when he got Superstition. That was really good. That was actually the right draft for picking Nazeebo.
Nazeebo is 3-0 now, yeah. So that's an NA at least. Dude, actually eat it. Don't mock eat your burger.
No,
Go
nobody.
In.
There are people out there that will be like, I do not want to watch somebody eat on the stream, and I respect that.
That's fair. Burger chat. Tracer, 8 wins, 0 losses.
Wow.
That's really interesting for North America in particular because she was...
Most of those games are with Tassadar, so it's kind of cheating.
True.
Or Zarya.
The shield meta lends very, very well to Tracer, but worth noting, Muradin has the highest win rate of all warriors, but not the highest involvement.
That's really surprising.
He's
actually.
So rare. Why, Jake? Why?
Popularity is 16%.
Why does nobody play him?
He doesn't have a flashy way to instantly win the game like Mosh Pit or APOC. Like he's just not flashy. I wonder if that has something to do with it because, like, impression of how powerful something is doesn't always line up with how powerful it actually is. So when you have stuff like Mosh Pit or APOC that's so flashy. It's definitely...
It was a year ago this month. They took the stun off of Avatar or maybe it was like end of July. People were like, "Oh, this is a trash hero now." And then like people started picking other warriors. They went back to Murd and they're like, you know what? Actually, he's still pretty good.
He's pretty okay.
Well, he got buffs too. Like they've done some talent
They buffed
tweaking
his
and
health
stuff
on
like
Avatar,
that.
right?
Yeah, I'm not talking about specifically in the patch where they took away his stuns. I'm saying like
Iron
they
Force
buffed
momentum.
some of his other talents.
Yeah.
Yeah, over the course of that time.
Like Iron Force momentum is like a really good talent, So
Even Skullcracker's seeing play now, which was surprising to me, but is really good with Give Him the Axe.
it's true. Yeah, give you that DPS, make him that brawler, the dueler, and static charge. I mean, for a long time that wasn't even meta, right? Now you see, the reverberation, a little bit more of just the thunderclap build, and it just gives him a lot of sustain. I think Murden's in a good spot. It's just like Dunk said, he isn't that flashy warrior, and it almost feels like people just got bored of playing him or something, and they I don't know.
I just feel like someone said, "Oh, he's not good anymore," and then they just stop seeing people play him. So just everyone assumes he's not good. It's just sort of this hive mentality that everyone gets into. It's just sort of like this group think, or just some of the top teams are playing them, so I shouldn't either, because that's how you get inbred metas that don't evolve correctly.
Like ETC took over like the number one warrior spot for a lot of teams, especially like around BlizzCon and stuff like that. But like, I guess that's kind of the thing to me. We talked about it the other night. I think we might have just been talking in Discord, but about how like people are kind of high on Varian right now in North America, while somebody like Caterpillar tweets out like, "Please stop picking Varian. He's terrible." But you go to a team like Naventic, and instead of picking Muradin, B-Kid is consistently picking Varian.
Yeah.
And that was really surprising to me.
I think Varian's really interesting, especially like, when you look at these heroes like Tracer, although she only has 8 games played, she hasn't lost one. She struggles against things like Taunt. Taunt's a very short cooldown. You can basically burn her E, guaranteed, or get the kill on her. And, Taunt's going to be, an amazing ability against any kind of dive hero that tries to go in, like even Illidan, Greymane. You can really punish them with that if you have the follow up with it. So I think Varian's a really, really interesting hero. I think the problem with him, more or less, Cattle probably doesn't like him, but his early game is bad. But once he hits level 10,
terrible.
He's great.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean,
I
he's
think
also only really viable as Taunt right now, I think,
which is
realistically,
yeah,
which is a little sad.
I agree.
But yeah, his early game is so bad, man. It's just hard to get. Like, when you watch a game that has Varian in it, if the team with Varian on their team is even at level 10, like, they should probably win the game. Because he should have been losing until level 10, unless, like, the rest of the teams are way mismatched. But that was my takeaway.
And that's kind of how Sonya used to operate. Sonya was this big late game hero. She comes in online, like, post, like 20, she just doesn't die. And I'm now looking at how she was played yesterday, I think that she's kind of filling obviously her and Varian don't fill exactly the same role, but she has that late game still, but now actually her early game doesn't feel too bad, especially as a solo laner. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to sort of see where her and Varian overlap in terms of choices, though fundamentally they're very different characters.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we can't really talk too much about the meta that exists because that will be going away very quickly, and I do want to just kind of focus on the future and the new patches that we're going to be seeing. So let's talk about the standings and the state of North America after Week 2 has completed. I think a lot of us would say that we are surprised to see that the number one team in terms of record is, in fact, Team 8. This is the team that had to opt to not continue playing competitive right before the league started, and they have looked phenomenal. 9-1, the pack leaders for North America. No surprise to see Tempo Storm also 3-0 in their matches, but they are 9-4, having dropped 3 games more than Team 8.
Like, I don't think it's a surprise to see Tempo up there. Team 8 actually is really surprising. I wonder how they'll do at lands, because it's pretty much, I mean, assuming they stay at like even a 50% win rate now or so, like they're pretty much locked in for the clash at least. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually perform offline, because I think that's going to be really tough for them. Yeah, like historically a lot of those players have struggled at offline events, so it'll be interesting.
But I guess the biggest thing to put it, like, Jake, I know how much you love like regular sports, right? But like let's talk NFL where the seasons are relatively short. Okay, we're talking about 7 games. Let's say you get a favorable matchup. Somebody's off 1 week. They took down B-Step, and then they got a couple wins against teams that we would probably say were in like the bottom 4. But B-Step was predicted to be a top 4 team, if not a top 2 or 3 team. And so now all of a sudden it becomes matchups. And we saw Gale Force this past week drop a set that they should have taken. Are they going to be shaken? Where are they at? I mean, they're all over the place in their roles, right? They're role swapping like every game almost, it seems like. So if Team 8 surprises Gale Force, like you have to look at them. Like Dunk said, if they can maintain a 500% win rate, if they take down one of those 2 teams this weekend, one of them, then they're going to be 4-1 at that point, and there's only 2 weeks left.
Yeah. Well,
and then you could reasonably go 5-2. The fact that you dominated your first 3 series and didn't drop maps, like that factors in if there's a tiebreaker.
Right.
Yeah,
so like now you're legitimately looking that all they have to do is pull off like 1 or 2. Maybe we shouldn't win this, and now they could be a top 3 team heading to Katowice.
Yeah, this weekend, though, they have to play against Tempo and Gale Force, so it's probably, like, those are the number 2 and 3 teams on the seeding and, like, actually the best teams in the league right now, so it'll be interesting to see if they win.
the Tempo Team 8 match, like, the winner of that, I think at that point you're guaranteed to go to the Western Clash because you're 4-0. I don't think and you're taking a win off your biggest competitor. Yeah. So I don't think you can not make it, which is a really big matchup. So Tempo versus Team 8, something to really look forward to this week. Gale Force, so just reeling it back to this past weekend, like you mentioned, they lost to Team Freedom, and this also really opens that window for the 3rd place team, right? Is it them? Is it Superstars? Like, who's going to be nabbing that spot? Because we've got 3 more weeks of games and only 3 teams are going to the Western Clash, so it's intense.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw from Superstars, but like their last series was just like, hey, did you guys forget this is what we like to do sometimes?
They just
reverted back to them old selves.
Yeah, they just like, all right, we're just going to play our own game and it's going to fail.
They pooped the bed a little.
For what I mean, it's very enjoyable to watch.
It's fun,
I like their team a lot, and I think they have a ton of potential. But like, it just was like, what was that?
It was interesting. I actually turned off Game 3 very very quickly. I had been watching, and I'm like, all right, well. There's no chance for this game. Was
it when Dredd started laughing?
I don't know. I might have already been gone by then.
Yeah. I feel like the thing for Team 8, and Chap pointed it out, is that they have, I think, in my opinion, the best support tank combo in NA right now. The Buds and Justing have been playing. I remember casting those guys way back in the day on like THC. Like I'm pretty sure I casted their first competitive game. And to watch how far those guys have come playing together is insane. Like their synergy, I think maybe Tempos with June. I don't know, but even still, like I feel like that's their sort of their X factor when I look at Team 8 is just how consistently on point those 2 are. I just wanted to get that point in.
No, I agree.
Keep in mind, Buds was never a support main too, and that shows like how good he's done. He was normally a ranged damage dealer.
Way back. Apparently they're middle school friends, according to Twitch chat. That makes
That's
sense.
awesome. That's really cool.
I played Team League with them a few weeks ago, like before the season started. They were like cringing so hard because apparently they both did separate interviews, like the pre-roll stuff that they're doing, and they both apparently went in, talked about the same thing, and both said that they have good synergy or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, if they just play those back to back, we're gonna look super." I would have loved.
Can't be any more dumb than.
Listen, my only thing about that, do it once, right? But then take the player section out of it. I don't need to see the players raise their head every game. I'm fine with it during game 1, maybe two games.
Hey,
but like,
let's at least acknowledge that they took out them saying their name at the start of each game. Like day 1 of each, that was so cringe. Like So at least they're not doing that. I can deal with those little things existing on the side. Like it doesn't disrupt the game for me. So it's like it's fine. They're putting a name to the face. I think there's merit to that. But K1 Pro Itakamura or whatever, I probably butchered his last name. Like the silence of the casters, the deadness, the flatness, the drawn. I'm glad they realized that was bad.
There's a way to do it. I think that they've done it right most of the time. But I think that there is a little bit of dead air at times to where it makes it feel a little bit awkward. But the fact that they are putting the players' faces, their names and stuff like that, that's something I've been talking about for a long time. I obviously think they can do more, but like I'm really happy they do that. But it might be overkill if you have a 5-game series and all 5 games you see the same head raise.
I think there are interesting ways to mix it up. I think the casters could somehow pick an MVP from the last game and like have a stat card for that player to inject at the start of the game kind of thing. Like this is our player to watch or something. There's like some creative things they could do. Or Jay Howe, if you want them to get real fancy, maybe they could do more than just this. Maybe they could go. Or
Do a vengeance snap? Is that it?
Like I always want to know who's playing what, like when they start the game.
Yeah.
But I imagine that there's 2 layers, and there's at least 2 layers in that graphic to where you just like remove the player animation. But outside of that, it's great. It's a wonderful addition. I like it a lot. But like when I'm watching a 5-game series and I see it each time, then I'm like, all right, we're good.
So I think it's actually super easy. All you do is you like introduce the blue team, left hand side. You got like a panel along the left hand side that just got like 5 squares. Just have a static video of them next to it, hero name, player name.
Well, they did that at BlizzCon, but I think they're committed to the lower thirds, and I actually like the lower thirds a lot. And I think that there's a lot of cool stuff they can do. Again,
the reason I think you show all 5 at once, and the caster can introduce it at their own pace. You don't have those super awkward lilts in between.
Yeah.
And you can tell the other guys like trying to hit the buttons to keep up with them, and they're trying to play. I mean, it's good, but it's still definitely needs some refinement. I think it just give all 5 at once, and then let the caster introduce it at their own pace. I think is
at worst just give me a static graphic of the person and not a dynamic head raise.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Jay, can you give me a head race?
I got greasy fingers. I can't cross my arms.
Okay. Well, jumping back into the discussion here with everything from HGC, let's kind of talk about the bottom half of things, because I think, Niantic and B-Step are teams that you look at the standings and you say, whoa, what happened to these teams? But, there is some merit to it. So B-Step has lost to the top Team 8, Tempo, and GFE. They've literally lost to the 3 top teams. So, they haven't had an easy match yet. But does that mean they're not a top 3 team anymore? Are they a top 4 team? Where do they stand? How do you guys think B-Step sits right now in terms of skill? Because they've had some good games. But obviously they are 3-9 in games total.
I think they definitely have shown that, at least in their online performance, they're not even with Tempo or Teammate. I would maybe say the same about GFE, but GFE's looked pretty sloppy, and dropping the match against Team Freedom was pretty terrible. So
yeah.
I definitely wouldn't give them credit yet. I definitely think it's not obvious who's better between B-Step and GFE, but I think online Teammate and Tempo definitely came out a lot stronger. But I expect to see B-Step and Niantic both pick up a lot of points this week and next week.
Who do you have the schedule up, Jake? Who do they play?
I can pull it up.
B-Step.
Right now.
B-Step?
Yeah.
B-Step this weekend plays No Tomorrow and Team Freedom.
So that's in theory, two matches they can very well win.
Games they should win.
No Tomorrow has No Tomorrow won a game yet?
No, I don't think so. I mean, no, they've won games. They just haven't won any matches.
Okay. I wasn't sure what their standing is.
I guess this weekend is really going to decide whether
they're tied.
Team Freedom is actually here to play, or if there was a freak victory against GFE. no offense to them, but like winning one match against GFE doesn't suddenly make you like an actual contender in the HGC. But this weekend they play both Noventic and B-Step. So like if they go 1-1 at least in those matches and like the games are competitive, then you can say, okay, they're here, like they're actually competing for like the middle tier of spots, like they're a real team. If they lose both those matches and the GFE is like a freak accident victory, then like they're looking at potential crucible. So
I think the thing comparing like B-Step and GFE is like when GFE lose games, I feel like they're games they usually should have won. Like they should have won, and then they did something to lose that game. In the games that B-Steps lose, I don't feel like they're throwing them. I just feel like they're losing the game. There was like not a position where they're like, we're gonna win that game, and they suddenly just was like, nope, we're not. They just weren't either on mechanical or a decision making level. They just weren't there.
Yeah,
and I feel that's the big difference.
I just think when you don't have a dedicated tank, it's hard to have concise initiations, like with your shot calling and everything, and like, you know, they're flopping with 4 flex so often in GFE that like you see it almost feels polarizing sometimes. If they get like the comp where everybody like looks really, really comfortable, they look great. But other comps, it's just like, you know, solo Zarya. What we've seen that a couple times from them. It feels kind of
They swap one role to give somebody a hero that they're really good on and sacrifice it somewhere else. And to me, that feels like you have the potential to have that one person excel in whatever it is they're doing, or 2 people, I guess, depending on what. But then you have to rely on the other person who's on a hero that they're not primarily on or haven't been historically to play it well enough to justify that pick. And at times that can be really difficult. Like one mistake at a high competitive level will lose you the game. Or it'll give the other team a way back in. And I'm not saying we're on this level or anything like that, but if you ever watch like the Korean teams, you make one mistake and it's over. Like you lose that early team fight and they will ride that map until it's over, and you're going to have like a very slim chance of coming back, if at all. And so giving the other team opportunities like that, despite like maybe early game success or something like that, the one person that has actually impressed me the most, not for his play, but for his shot calling on his team, has actually been Glaurung. Like their map rotations, I think you could probably point to a few mistakes, but there's certain games that they play where you can see their map rotations are making the other team reactive for a very long period of time. It's actually really fun to watch sometimes. I'll see where they get down the road, but he's actually done really good shot calling, I think, in my opinion, in terms of rotations and timing and stuff like that.
I agree. I think Glaurung, he was criticized for so long about his hero pool, and everyone kept giving him crap, but it's the old beating a dead horse. And then Satan was like, fine, guys, I'll just play other heroes. And then they just start winning. And it's like, oh, that's great. Like, we don't have a lot of players in NA who play a hero so dominantly that other teams respect ban him. Like, we have a handful of those in all of North America, and his Medivh is one of them right now. And I think that's really interesting, the fact that if he, if you get him on a hero, yeah, there you go. If you get him on a hero that he can play that masterfully, like combine that with the shot calling, it's good because everyone was like, oh, Glau's overrated forever, and then now everyone's like, okay, maybe he's not, maybe he's actually just kicking ass and taking names, and I think it's exactly what the team needed, especially after all the shakeups before they come in, just have that leadership take over and then propel them forward with this new style.
It's working out for him very well. I can't say anything against him. Like honestly, they look really, really strong. Looking forward to.
Let me tell you how impressed Dunk was about some leyline seals.
How impressed?
Jay was being sarcastic because I was talking to him about the leyline seal that happened against, it was Superstars, right?
Top left, Infernal, right behind
on Infernal Shrines, yeah. And like the Medivh is like flying around in bird form on top of this whole team, and at some point they literally just like all clump on top of each other, and he just has to press R, and he like leylines the whole team. And like, okay, it was the correct play by Glaurung, but like it wasn't actually like mechanically impressive or like a particularly good play. It was like the enemy team made a huge mistake. and I was just kind of chatting about that. So that's what Jay was talking about.
The APOC
If you watch Kendrick's highlights, Snitch played a killer Medivh this past weekend. He used Medivh cheats to secure a 2-person lockdown into a mosh. Like, that's good shit right there, right? Like, I'm not saying God can't do it, but like if you're looking to like see like big stuff, like it was only 2 people, but it was more impactful at the time, and it was I guess a little bit. I mean, I don't want to say it's difficult, right? But it was a snap judgment, snap movement with the redirect on the ley line. That was a really good play. I was super impressed by Snitch's Medivh. He's really good on that hero.
Yeah, we're going to get to Europe really soon, but I guess I just kind of wanted to transition to talk about Niantic a little bit. They're a similar story to B-Step, where like they've had a lot of hard matches, a lot of their harder matches like right out of the gates. They did pick up a W. Do you, like what's their upcoming schedule? Let's actually look here for this weekend. They need to play Team Freedom. You just mentioned that, because if that's the one match they have this week. If we go forward to the next week, because there's 3 more weeks of games before the Crucible. I'm just trying to think. So Superstars, that'll probably be a pretty even match, and then Team 8. So they're not out of the woods yet, and for them to be able to make their way to the Western Clash, that's going to be.
They're pretty much hopeless.
They'd have to win like everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's tough.
And
because we're week 3 and 1, 2, 3 more weeks of matches before we go to the Western Clash.
I was gonna say, even if they finish 4-3, they've lost so many individual games that they'll lose tiebreakers. Like they have to be 5-2 and hope that there's some upsets along the way.
I don't.
So they have to win out.
They're gonna have to put it on and hope that the people get off. Like that's really what it comes down to. And I never want to be in a situation where
you're amazing at phrasing, by the way. Just
Thank
hope
you.
that other people get off.
phrasing. Yeah.
We're still doing that. We're still doing phrasing. No, no, but seriously, like I hate to be in a position as a team where like I'm reliant on other people to play bad. Like that is never a position you want to be in as a team. Where it's like I need these good players to suddenly start tilting. And I think Niantic has it in them to up their game. Like these guys have been together for a while. Tomster's a god. Like Big E is Big E. And I just need them to like I don't know. I just need them to do something. So I don't know what
need
that
them to
thing
get
is.
off.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need. I feel like it'll help up their game.
Twitch chat
We're all
caught up.
adults here.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
No? Oh.
So 3 more. Go ahead.
There were a couple of Zuna plays on the last game on Tracer where I was like, "Oh, damn, that's good."
Zuna puts his backpack on. He does his best to carry sometimes.
Tried so hard.
The one where like the camera broke away at the last moment, where I think it's Tychus walks back behind bottom fort wall. He's hearthing back, and you just see zoom, 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 do-do-do-do, and then recall like right behind that. I was like, oh shit! Like he's like, we're not losing this game. Like I'm going in, I'm doing whatever the hell it takes, even if I have to dive this. I'm making he makes stuff happen. Like those aren't normal. It's not like he did it once and you're like, okay, it's cool. He was doing it like all game. I was super impressed by the last few games that he played. Like the Medivh into the Tracer, really good. Also, making Kenma go Tranquility, or whether that was a choice that they made, was I think that he risked position too much, and when he went Tranquility, his positioning was far safer, and their team looked far better in team fights. I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, North America currently has, our situation where we have our 3 teams that will be going to the Western Clash, but there is a bit of contention with Superstars and GFE both sitting 2-1, tied for that position potentially. And then, of course, can one of the teams like Team Freedom rise? Can Niantic rise? Challenge that 3rd place spot? Likely we'll see Tempo in Team 8. It seems very, very dominant for those 2 teams. But we'll find out. Team 8 haven't played GFE or Tempo or right? Those matches have not happened.
No, teammate and tempo is going to be like the thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be the game. And
What
that's this
days are
weekend.
those this weekend? Sorry if I make you pull it up again.
No, I mean,
don't worry about it. I can find it.
No, stream.
Teammate tempo is Saturday, second match.
So Saturday night, that's the closer. Teammate versus tempo.
Yo, that's
And
what a
then
way to spend a Saturday night.
Well, then GFE teammate is going to be then on Sunday
morning. Or
at 5 p.m.
Sunday first game.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that game that no one's going to watch.
So, and those are all very meaningful when it comes to the positioning. And then, of course, I would imagine with the Western Clash, it's based on seed. So if you're number one North America, you get the better bracket. Like you won't have to fight Misfits in your group, most likely, right? That's very meaningful. But
Misfits is balling right now, by the way.
Misfits is just killing it. Best team West right now?
Yeah, easily, I'd say.
Yeah.
But let's transition to talk about the Europe side of things, where we do have a lot of action going on as well. So starting out with the standings here for EU, we were just talking about Misfits. They are looking quite nice. Misfits are 9-3, but you're going to look at Team Expert and be like, Jake, why are you hyping up Misfits if Team Expert's 9-0, man? That's totally better. And it is better. I mean, that's impressive. But Misfits has played against Dignitas. Misfits has played against Fnatic. Team Expert has played against Synergy, B Genius, and Tricked, like the three bottom teams. They've literally played the three worst teams in the European division. So this 9-0, it hasn't truly been tested yet. I'm not going to take credit away from them. It's a 9-0, regardless of how you look at it. But they have played the three worst teams in the league so far.
Yeah, and I'm just getting decently good buds with the coach over at B Genius, and interesting hearing the insight from the EU region right now, and just kind of hearing how things are going over there. It's basically they feel the divide a lot more than we do. I think they appreciate the fact. Like NA, I feel like anyone thinks I can beat any team on any given Sunday, but I feel like there's a real fear of digging Misfits right now, and apparently it's something that exists.
I mean, Fnatic too. You cannot.
Oh, sorry, yes, Fnatic.
Yeah, like
yes.
Fnatic really proved that they are monsters at BlizzCon. Like they proved to the world that, especially in a LAN setting, they're monsters. And I feel that if they don't play as well online, for sure. They thrive on the crowd. They thrive on the energy. They thrive on the atmosphere. But if they are in that top three, they're easily a mega threat going into this. Let's also talk about Dignitas a little bit. Dignitas, they didn't look amazing week one. They didn't. But week two, they turned it up.
I mean, they have another roster change. Like, they're going to need time.
They still gave up some early game pressure on a couple of their games.
That's
like
true.
Towers, like they were getting picked early on Towers. They ended up winning, and it ended up being like a pretty easy win towards the end of the game. But they're still having minor issues. That's the thing. I do want a quick question for Dunk here. So you played, obviously, like we had our fair share of online tournaments. Team Expert obviously is doing really well online, and they come in 3-0. Like, did you ever like get into brackets and you're like, damn, like we've been paying attention to like the other teams that we could potentially face. They're coming in, they're beating people. Like, did you always like? Did that ever like creep into your mind? Like, damn, what if they're actually good? Like, could they beat us? Like, did that ever like creep into your mind? Like, if I see like a team like Dignitas or Fnatic this weekend going up against Team Expert.
So you're saying like this weekend, you're Dig or Fnatic, you're thinking like, how scared are you actually of Team Expert?
Is that a thing?
Okay. I think the divide in skill is so big between the lower teams and the higher teams that like them beating Synergy, B Genius, Tricked, that doesn't actually tell me anything, but my scrim results are definitely going to be telling me whether I need to be scared of them or not.
Okay.
Like, not even necessarily like let's say, I don't know what the situation is with who scrims who in EU or whatever, but like, let's say Dig doesn't scrim Team Expert for whatever reason. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just like sending you like hypothetical. Like, so even if they have no experience scrimming Expert, they're still going to get information from other teams about like how their scrims against Expert are going, like just in the way they talk about each other and stuff. So you'll have an idea of relative skill level potentially. But the league results at this point don't tell me anything from Expert if I'm Dig or Fnatic for this weekend.
We can go back to Dig. I was just really curious about that. Like, if that was ever like a mental thing that would come in to make you like maybe not play your best because you fear that the other team might be better than what they are.
I doubt that would happen to Fnatic or Dig at this point, to be honest. Like, they're pretty seasoned, and I wouldn't expect them to, like, have issues.
Expert's going to come out. If they win one of those two,
That's big. They're
legit.
like they're locked in.
Yeah.
Right. That's a huge win for them. But it's best of 5. So winning a best of 3, I think is a little bit easier. A best of 5 is like a true like really big test of like your ability to play on multiple maps, multiple drafts, which is why the format is so good. But it's interesting to have that threat there in Europe when you have like these 3 gods. That is Misfits, Fnatic, and Dignitas. An Expert is a challenger for sure.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they do this weekend. If Expert 0-2s this weekend against Dig Fnatic, then I think
It's over for them.
they've cemented their position as like the 4th best team in Europe, basically. At this point, the question is like, are they better than that? Like, are they fighting for a top 2, top 3 Europe spot?
Yeah, how do they compare to like Playing Ducks? Playing Ducks has shown some pretty good promise overall. But
I think we'll see like a game taken in each series, maybe. I think we'll look like
that's
a game
it.
taken. Yeah, I think that's it. I think the Experts, the chance to test their mettle, but of who they've gone up, the divide is just real big. It's real big in there. Like it's scary, and it's I'm scared for NA in terms of what happens with the clash. I mean, I don't know how we're gonna do, frankly. I think it's really gonna depend on where the meta is, but in terms of I don't expect the series to be taken. Maybe go to game 5 and 1. Maybe go to game 5, but I don't think they're going to take a series. Predictions #.
I think it's a little early to for this weekend. For some reason,
For this weekend. For this weekend.
For this
Yeah,
weekend. Well, let us pull up the schedule so we can actually do predictions for both NA and EU. We're going to start out with North America. We're just going to go ahead and each quickly spit out our predictions for the matchups going down the line as we are wrapping up here with tonight's show. So Naventic versus No Tomorrow versus B-Step for the first match. These teams are currently at the bottom, tied exactly in score for for North America. And I mean, I'm giving it to B-Step 3-1.
As am I.
Same.
J-Ho?
B-Step versus who? Sorry.
No Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
No Tomorrow.
Ooh.
Score?
3-1.
Okay, I'm gonna write all this down.
Yeah,
We're
write these
gonna
down. I mean,
revisit this next week.
I'm picking. I don't even
my
know.
boy, but-
I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and they win a game, and then everybody's like, "Oh shit!" And then they win in game 2, and it's just like, "Well, now we're in trouble."
Yeah.
Or it could just they get 3-0'd. It could go either way. I just want to pick the upset in this one.
Hold on, I gotta open up a document.
We're going to be held to these. I like it.
I just won't come back on the show. Can't hold me to it if I'm not here.
Jake, Dunk, and Verum say 3-1 for B-Step. J-House says 3-1 for No Tomorrow. All right, I don't have to audibly think for all of this. I will save you guys from that moving forward. Here we go into Superstars versus GFE and Verum. You start.
GFE 3-2-1, I think. But that one I'm the least sure about.
Dunk?
I think GFE 3-2 Superstars.
J-How?
Gale Force comes out, tries to reverse. Cheese Superstars loses 0-3 in Kappa. Gale Force 3-0.
GFE 3-0. I'm gonna say a 3-2 for Superstars, and I'm not even playing devil's advocate. I actually think that Superstars plays a weird meta, and since like the 4 flex, I think might actually work against GFE if they aren't able to play like against the weird stuff that Superstars might throw at them. I think Superstars might be able to prepare well for this. It's also a team they know a lot about. They know how to play against GFE. So that goes both ways, but I'm for some reason I just have a feeling it's going to be a 3-2 for Superstars. Okay, down to day 2. Team Freedom versus Naventic. This is one of those big tests. We'll start with you, Jay Hal.
I'll go Naventic 3-1.
Dunk.
Oh God,
Naventic.
I feel like this one is really up in the air. I don't know. Like,
You live in Vegas, man. What are the odds on this one?
this is so close to an even split. I think Naventic takes it. I think Team Freedom has hard matchups this weekend and might fail in both because of how difficult it is to prepare for both. So I think Naventic 3-2, Team Freedom.
3-2. Inverum.
See, I think it should be Naventic 3-2, but I have a funny feeling that Freedom's just going to pull out something crazy. And so I'm gonna go 3-2 Freedom. I'm just going to do it, but I think it's going to be, as Dunk said, this is going to be a really good series.
I'm expecting a 3-1 for Naventic. Tempo Storm versus Team 8. Craigasm. This is
Tempo Storm
what
3-2.
do we do if teammate comes out and 3-0's Tempo Storm? Do we all just consider the apocalypse is coming?
no.
I think we are happy for our chances against.
That's
EU.
amazing. Like that's really cool if that happens.
I don't think that's what that says.
That doesn't help out our chances against the U. That means that we have no chance.
No, it means we have
If
one
teammate comes
team.
out in
We have
3-0's
one team
Tempo,
who's got a
and we're just
chance.
like, look, guys, we're not even going to show up to Poland. You guys have a good time. We'll be there next time. The Tempo's got to take this, right? Like 3-0.
I don't think they're
3-0.
gonna 3-0, man.
3-0.
Yeah.
3-2.
So I'm going with 3-2 for Tempo Storm as well. I think we're all saying Tempo Storm 3-2 except Jay House saying 3-0. Okay.
I think this is
Only
definitely
way they
the
don't go
match of the
3-0
weekend.
is if Tempo goes up 2-0 and then tries to do something weird just to see if it works.
Yeah. GFE versus Team 8. I'm going to say... this is tough too.
Teammate 3-1 GFE.
Wow, okay.
Dude, I'm tweeting Udall right now.
I'm gonna give it to. I'm gonna give it to Team 8, but I'm gonna say 3-1 Team 8. I'm copying you, Dunk. I feel it. I feel it.
Oh, all three of us have been on the same page pretty much here. And then there's J House having fun.
Jay, how are you gonna break the meta? Are you gonna break the mold?
Yeah, I just think the teammate will realize, like, hey guys, like this is actually happening.
And then they're
And
gonna crumble.
I'm gonna go Gale Force 3-1.
I think they're gonna get in their own heads.
It's possible.
Definitely is. I mean, this is the hardest weekend for them, no question. So
Yeah.
Sure.
if they're going to fail, it's going to be here. But I've liked the way they looked so far.
So B Step versus Team Freedom. I'm gonna say 3-1 B Step.
Yeah, I think B-Step should win. 3-1 seems reasonable.
I'm gonna say 3-2 for B Step.
Wait, who they playing?
Freedom.
B-Step loses their first game of the weekend. Do they just say, forget it? Throw in the towel? Everybody's got
I
to play
don't
for
think
something.
that-
I guess that's the part about the Crucible, right? That you don't want to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, the record is cumulative for the first, like,
Mhm.
up until the Crucible, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So, okay, then... B-Step's got to win one, man. 3-2 on this one for B-Step.
All right, those are the predictions for North America. We're going to switch over to Europe. And for Europe, we've got Playing Ducks versus Tricked for the first match.
Was everybody's like,
Yeah.
I give it to
mean,
Ducks myself. but-
Probably Ducks. I would say
Probably
Ducks
Ducks.
is definitely favored.
Ducks 3-1, I think.
Yeah,
Trick
I mean,
Esports gonna get their first W,
feels
but
bad,
not
man.
this week. Playing Ducks. I think Trick actually has a chance for this one, so I'll say Playing Ducks 3-2.
Okay, give me 1 sec. Dunk, what'd you say?
3-2 Ducks. 3-1 Ducks. Let's be real.
Trick has
saying-
been playing these they don't know anything but warrior heavy front lines. I think they're even one of the teams that has gone triple warrior. It's really awkward.
And Inverum?
I agree. 3-1 Ducks.
3-1 Ducks. Be Genius versus Fnatic. I think we're all going to say Fnatic. And I'm going to say 3-0.
3-0. Sorry, Elzul. 3-0.
I don't even think this has to be a question.
Okay. I'm literally just going to write Fnatic in my notes. Synergy versus Misfits. I'm just going to write Misfits.
Yep. 3-0. Yep.
Europe is a little bit more like a gap. We talked about that earlier. Europe, I mean, some of these teams, you look at the lower end, you look at the higher end, and it's just ooh. But this is a little bit more fun when you look at Dig versus
Dig
Expert.
Expert. That's a fun matchup. That's the same questions that we have about Teammate versus Tempo, or Teammate versus Gale Force in NA. This is the same thing, because Expert is again the team that's much less storied but performing well at the beginning of the league, but hasn't had their hard matchups yet. And how will they do against Dig? I think Dig is going to take this one 3-2. It's going to be a tough series because they're still not at 100% with their new player, but I think they will definitely. I think they'll win.
3-2. I'm going to say 3-1 for Dig.
As am I.
J-How?
Hopefully the Dick and Toss guys won't hear this. ADRD goes out of his way to fully have a team comp in place and targeting the other team. He right now in draft has dictated a lot of the way things have gone. And there are certain things that you can do to Dig right now to give yourself an advantage. Maybe not a W, but you can give yourself an advantage. I still think Dig, but I think it's going to be a much tougher series. I wouldn't be surprised if Expert comes out and wins, but I'll say 3-2 for Dig. But there's a few things, if I'm studying Dig right now, I'm all right, you can probably do this and this and give yourself a much better opportunity.
All right. Well, we'll find out for sure. Fnatic versus Expert. Also, this is a big weekend for Expert. How do they fare versus Fnatic? Jay, I'm going to make you open this one.
Pretty much the same. I think Fnatic has a very established. I think Fnatic probably 3-1 here. I think they're just more established in their meta, and they're not trying to work in a new player right now.
I'm actually going to say 3-0 Fnatic.
So am I.
Stop copying me.
I'm sorry.
I don't think you're gonna 3-0 the Mad Scientist. I think you're gonna take a loss somewhere in there to the draft phase.
That's a good point.
I think it's just real solid right now, mechanically. Sorry, Fnatic. It's just really solid mechanically right now. I don't know.
Yeah, they're good. They're definitely favored.
So, Nucky saying 3-1 or 3-2?
I think 3-1.
For Fnatic. Okay. And then last but not least is Tricked versus Synergy, and I don't know if I'll watch it.
To be honest, it's on the Synergy on Sunday evening during Super Bowl. Probably not likely for Sunday afternoon to watch.
BKB's back, guys!
I mean, statistically speaking, I don't think the Russians have a very good chance of winning game. I don't think I'm going to give it to other team here. Probably 3-1.
Because that's what you all needed in your life.
That is. I didn't know until just now. That's what I needed.
I appreciate that.
That was it.
I just clipped that so I can continue to play it for later.
On loop.
J-Hall made 6.
Whenever I'm going down and out, I just go back and watch this clip.
I'm just going to go with Alex the Pro G, my boy. Give him my faith.
I'm going to say 3-2 Synergy.
I'm going to say 3-1 the other way.
Again, Inverum copies me.
Trick in a sloppy series.
That kind of
Clown
series that
Fiesta
every
series.
player walks away feeling bad.
This games, right, where like I'm talking like Moon Prayer, I talk to him a lot. He's the stats guy for Tempo, right? He does the articles and stuff that you see out there. Really good too, right? But I talk to him and we're watching certain games and you're just like, something's happening. We're not we're not sure exactly what their goal is, but something is definitely happening. People are mashing R buttons. And then like both teams will walk away from each other and you're like, okay, we'll wait till the next one.
Well, those are the predictions for NA and EU, week number 3 of HGC. And I actually had no idea the Super Bowl was happening until Twitch chat told me, and you just mentioned it earlier. So I guess I'll make some nachos. Cool.
Wings.
Wings. Yeah, it's an excuse to eat
Wings.
wings. Yes,
My
it's an
go-to.
excuse to be an oaf on Sunday. Can't wait for it. I will not watch the sports ball. I will watch the esports ball. On that note, we're going to transition to our shout-outs. Inverum, take it away, man.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on the show here, team. Lots of fun casting the Arcanum last night. Lots of great action. Just so much great Heroes of the Storm going on right now. If you guys want to hit up myself on the Twitter, you can do it at Inverum Gaming. Got a lot of really fun stuff coming up in the near future. So excited to share that with you guys and just play lots of Heroes of the Storm. Go do that.
J-How?
Like I was just happy we covered the show thing at the beginning. But if you guys weren't here, put out a new recap series. It's going to be on Mondays, covering all the action. I literally watch all the games, clip everything, put it together. You can check it out. Find out everything I do on the tweeters. Don't forget to put your fingers in the pie and help others get off. Courtesy of Inverum.
Fingers and pies.
Fingers in pies. And just want to inject this in here. Korea predictions. That's something we'll do in future weeks. But this week, since this is their week 1, that's going to be starting. I don't want to do predictions since we'd just be kind of going because we don't have a lot to base.
Their
this.
top 4 rosters, because of all their swaps. That's going to be a hell of a series or hell of a.
No, it's going to be good.
That's super. Like I was looking at the post. That's something to look forward to.
Whoa! If you look at Korea, they have a Western clash, not an Eastern clash.
Korea has their own Western clash, where we call it Eastern.
It's funny that it's listed on their thing. They're obviously not at the same time, but that's just I'm amused.
The key thing to remember with the Koreans is no matter who wins, as the viewers, we win. That's just to remember, because the best heroes we're going to see played is going to come out, and I'm so excited. I'm so ready.
And I get to listen to my cute little Wolfie poo.
Oh, Wolf. Ooh. Get to talk about ramen on Twitter and post magazines. Ooh.
Dude.
It's going to be epic.
He made a pentagram out of soju bottles or something.
It was a star. Nobody drew a circle around it.
Dunkus.
So just hit me up on Twitter if you find a team fight you think is particularly worthwhile for the breakdown that I contribute to J-How's Monday morning recap, because basically I was just picking a team fight, not necessarily the most one-sided or something crazy happened, but something that you think there's a learning experience, and maybe if you find one that you think is really good, toss it to me on Twitter. I'll try to add it. I don't know what's going on in this channel right now, but I'm doing my best to ignore it. Other than
if you're at home, give me some Dunk Train.
Other than that, just
Excellent.
I'm going to buy you a new train whistle and mail it to you. Just so that you have to use it again. So I can guilt you into it.
He sleeps with it under his pillow. I hope you know that.
No, it got chewed up by his dog, man.
Break.
His dog destroyed it. I saw
That's
the
what
remnants.
he wants you to believe.
I saw the remnants. He showed it to me once.
It was fake.
No, he probably didn't.
The real one is under the pillow. He sleeps with it.
Fake news, guys. The whistle lives.
So the Arcanum started last night for my shout-outs. 2 weeks from now on Valentine's Day, we will have our second event Congrats to Nice. Vox, they recovered from their poor performance in the Open Division. They busted out, got second place in the Arcanum. Unfortunately, that doesn't count towards HGC. It is independent from that. And yes, I know these are two very different, that's going to tilt a lot of people. I got to fix my website. But that's fine. But yeah, season or week 2 weeks from now. Thanks so much for all the teams that signed up. Had 30 teams show up. I am making some adjustments. It went till 2 a.m. I do not want that. A little bit too late, so we're going to do basically best of ones all the way to semifinals, and then that way the contingency, there won't be, there's no risk of having best of three as we did. That went 3 games deep. That would be 25 minutes long and brought us deep into the night. Beyond that, Open Division next week, next Tuesday. Jay Howe and I, Monday, Tuesday. Signups are at gosugamers.net/heroes of the storm. Arcane 8 signups, arcane8.com/arcanum, or just go to arcane8.com. It's pretty darn simple. And looking to just have lots of cool stuff. And thanks for following the Arcane 8 channels, everyone. The Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all of them. Much love. Heart. But till next time, this has been episode number 124 of Town Hall Heroes. If you're watching the VOD, enjoy this cat.